So we're going to be taking a look back in time, the year that Steven Stamkos was drafted into the NHL, how his career in the NHL kind of got off to a rocky start, and how the New York Rangers almost acquired Steven Stamkos. We'll be taking a look at that in this video. If you like what we're doing here at Glen Hockey and want to see the latest news around the NHL and more videos like this, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Let's talk about how the New York Rangers almost acquired Steven Stamkos. Alright, so this is actually continuing off of a series I kind of started. I may be starting here in a what could have been series. Last time we talked about how the New York Islanders almost acquired Mark Stone from the Ottawa Senators at the 2019 NHL trade deadline, how the Ottawa Senators chose the trade with the Vegas Golden Knights over the Islanders option that they had proposed to them from the Islanders. Today we're going to be moving over to the New York Rangers. As the New York Rangers, back in the year that Steven Stamkos was drafted, there was talk that Stamkos could, yes, indeed be traded that season. So I'm going to be giving credit. They didn't want to accept credit, but I don't know if he's a subscriber or not. NP22, thank you for leaving this in the comment section for that video. And fans out there, make sure to leave in the comment section down in all my videos. Obviously, I'm always looking for content from you guys because, yes, this is my channel. I run the channel, but it's for you guys as well. So don't be afraid to leave in the comment section down below any video ideas or what could have been to keep this series going. This was a great article by the New York Post. It's been 10 years since this article was posted, and crazy enough, I had no idea that this was even on the table. We're looking back in a little bit of a while. It's been a while since this happened. It was back in the time machine, 21 games into the season for Steven Stamkos, and the Tampa Bay Lightning were not getting off to a hot start. 20-year-old Steven Stamkos, 2008 NHL entry draft, first overall pick. The expectations were high for Steven Stamkos, and they've been throughout all of his career. He's the captain of the Tampa Bay Lightning, been one of the most really successful franchises since he came to the Tampa Bay Lightning back in 2008. Through most of the 2010s, they've been a very solid organization, probably one of the best teams in their conference, either the Southeast Division or the Atlantic Division, which they're in now. The Tampa Bay Lightning have been a very stable organization. They've had Steve Yzerman as the general manager, Scott Laughton, which things didn't work out so well with him, but we'll be taking a look at all that in this video. So, since being drafted in the 2008 draft, things did not start off for Steven Stamkos too well in Tampa. His first 21 games, he had 2 goals with 5 assists. So 7 points in 21 games. That's basically a point every 3 games for the young superstar. And that just was not enough for the Tampa Bay Lightning, who they just missed. They've gotten Steven Stamkos, which they would get the next couple of years in 2009. And the year before, they picked up Steven Stamkos. So there was talk that the Rangers could be looking at a deal for Stamkos. General manager at the time, Glen, had plenty of good things to say about Stamkos and how he was constantly bombarding the general manager of the Tampa Bay Lightning about making a deal get done with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, the deal was supposedly on the table, and it was talked about that, the Tampa Bay Lightning actually went overseas for a game before, right around November, and it was pretty much a hand-shooken agreement that once the Tampa Bay Lightning got back from their trip out of North America, Glen Sather and Scott Laughton would continue to talk about a trade, as the management further up in the Tampa Bay organization actually wanted to get a deal done to move out Steven Stamkos. I know, it sounds crazy looking at it now, but there was a hand-shooken agreement between Sather and one of the higher-ups in the Tampa Bay Lightning organization. So now we look at what the package would have contained. And, it comes down to a wish list of 2 of these 3 players. Evgeny Grachev, Michael Del Zotto, Ryan Callahan, Brandon Dubinsky, and Dan Girardi. So just off of that, it's kind of dating yourself just looking at that list of players. I mean, Michael Del Zotto, he's now an aging defenseman. At this point, he was a very solid defenseman in his prime, though. He was with the Philadelphia Flyers for a couple years, the New York Rangers. He was a very solid defenseman in his prime. You've got Brandon Dubinsky, who was a solid addition. He was with the New York Rangers for a couple of years in the John Tortorella era, as well as Ryan Callahan, who still ended up going to the Tampa Bay Lightning later on in another trade. Evgeny Grachev kind of never really took off the way they were hoping he would have. And Dan Girardi, who the Rangers are still paying at this point. But actually, no. Again, he ended up going to the Tampa Bay Lightning as well. Forgot about that. But, the funny thing is things kind of work out that way. Girardi ends up going to Tampa. Callahan ends up going to Tampa, but in a different deal. So Tampa Bay was always high on those players. So that's kind of, the thing. And it was pretty much, the deal was set. It was done. And unfortunately, it didn't end up working out. Obviously, as we know, history. Now Tampa Bay Lightning captain, Steven Stamkos, he stays with the organization, and it's totally different. But let's think about what could have been. He ended up having 46 goals that season. He had an unbelievable year, but you look at the Rangers since then. They had John Tortorella as a head coach. They had some pretty nice playoff runs, but they couldn't get past the Washington Capitals. Would Stamkos have been a difference maker in those series where you've got Stamkos and Ovechkin up against each other in that Capitals-Rangers playoff rivalry they had for a pretty long time? And it just seemed like the Rangers never had that answer to Alexander Ovechkin up front. Stamkos could have been that. And then you look, when they played the Los Angeles Kings and they finally got to that Stanley Cup final run that they had, and unfortunately they fell short. They lost the series in 5 games. But we're sitting here thinking they may have won that Stanley Cup had they had Steven Stamkos. Would he have been that extra piece that would have allowed the Rangers to get over the hump and win their first Stanley Cup since 1994? I think it's pretty safe to say the Rangers probably would have had a pretty nice chance at winning the Stanley Cup at least once in those 2010 years where Henrik Lundqvist was in his prime, and it seemed like the Rangers were really bound to win a Stanley Cup. If they had Steven Stamkos, the story definitely would have changed. Now, obviously, we would talk later on when Steven Stamkos was up for his contract. He was waiting to see his options that he could have in free agency. There was a lot of talk he would go up to Toronto to play with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that's when I saw this comment, in the article. I was assuming they were going to talk about that back in that year when Stamkos would be a free agent. But even before then, the year he was drafted, there was talk that Stamkos could be heading out of Tampa Bay. So through it all, Steven Stamkos, probably one of my favorite NHL players. Probably wouldn't be, let's be honest. I'm a New York Islander fan. If he was down the road playing for the Rangers, I probably would not like Steven Stamkos too much. But I have to say, ever since he's been drafted by the Lightning, a huge reason I like the Tampa Bay Lightning is because of Steven Stamkos, just what he's done there with that organization. But, man, the thought that he would be with the New York Rangers is just, it's unbelievable. It's crazy just to think that that was even on the table. Obviously, things didn't work out like I said. Scott Lawton didn't want it. The higher-ups above, Barry, who was, I believe, one of the owners that shook hands with Glen on the deal, he was the one that wanted it, but enough guys around the table there in Tampa Bay did not want to move Steven Stamkos, especially being a rookie. He was too young still. So they decided to keep him, and they've had some pretty good success. They haven't won a Stanley Cup with Steven Stamkos, but they've had some pretty solid runs since then. So leave in the comment section down below any video ideas like this. What could have been? Just the thought that the Rangers could have had Steven Stamkos on that roster. It's crazy. And you even look at that Tampa Bay team. I mean, if they had Michael Del Zotto, Ryan Callahan, Evgeny Grachev, Dubinsky, Girardi, two of those 3 guys, I mean, the Lightning would have been set during that time to go on a pretty solid Stanley Cup run. Fortunately, things fell through. They would end up drafting 2nd overall that year in the 2009 NHL draft. The Tavares draft, they ended up getting 2nd, not too bad, because they picked up probably one of the best, if not the best defenseman right now in the NHL up in Montreal in Victor Hedman. So, who knows? Maybe if they traded Stamkos and they got all those pretty solid players, maybe they would have never gotten Victor Hedman. So, it just continues along with what could have been, right? In this alternate universe that we don't live in. So, that's it for this video. If you like what we're doing, here at Goal Line Hockey and want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.